Hello boys, welcome back to another session of video tutorials, and this session is meant for class 12th biology students, and this is meant for 7th July 2020. From our memory we understand that we are discussing and reflecting on biodiversity and its conservation. So all of us understand, being biology students, that biodiversity must be conserved at any cost. And there are patterns of biodiversity. What are those patterns? As we know, biodiversity is not uniform throughout the world. It shows uneven distribution. In some areas, biodiversity is vast. In some areas, biodiversity is minimum. Some other areas, there is no biodiversity at all. So what is that affects biodiversity? So biodiversity is affected by two factors: latitudinal gradient and species area relationship. What do you mean by latitudinal gradient? Species diversity decreases as we move away from equator towards the poles. It increases in temperate areas but reaches the maximum in tropical rainforests. So maximum diversity occurs in Amazon rainforest of South America. So in general, species diversity decreases as we move from equator towards the poles. Of course, few exceptions are there. Tropics with a latitudinal range of 23.5 degrees north to 23.5 degrees south harbor more species than temperate or polar areas. Colombia, located near the equator, has nearly 1400 species of birds, while New York at 41 degrees north has 105 species, and Greenland at 71 degrees N only 56 species. India, with much of its land area in the tropical latitudes, has more than 1200 species of birds. So this shows the varieties in biodiversity patterns. Look at the Amazon rainforest, and of course recently the Amazon rainforest was in news, and Brazil president was also in news, and there were a lot of forest fires, there were a lot of BBC videos and WION videos wherein it is heart burning. It's not just Amazon forest burning, it's heart burning for all of us to see innocent animals getting burnt alive when there were fires in Amazon forest. That too, it was human intentionally done, and that is very, very bad. We have lost a lot of biodiversity because of this human interference in the Amazon rainforest. Hope such things will not be repeated by us in future. Already we have realized the value of what causes to us if we damage to some other life forms. And Amazon forest, largely tropical Amazon rainforest, situated in South America, as you all studied in your geography, has the greatest biodiversity on earth. It's a home to more than 40,000 species of plants, 3,000 of fishes, 1,300 of birds, 427 of mammals, 427 of amphibians, 378 of reptiles, and more than 125,000 invertebrates. See the biodiversity in Amazon rainforest, and that is the splendor of Amazon rainforest. And the greater biological diversity in tropics. Tropic accounts for greater biological diversity. And what are the reasons for this biological diversity accumulating in tropical regions? We say three reasons. One, prolonged evolutionary time. Prolonged evolutionary time. And second, constant environment. Second reason being constant environment. And third, high productivity. High productivity. First one, prolonged evolutionary time. Speciation is generally a function of time, unlike temperature or temperate regions subjected to frequent glaciations in the past. Tropical latitudes have remained relatively undisturbed, that's the main thing, undisturbed for millions of years, and thus had a long evolutionary time for species diversification. Since no disturbance was there, so there was a time available for evolution, hence prolonged evolution, the time has given the tropics to have maximum diversity. And second, constant environment. Tropical environments, unlike temperate ones, are less seasonal, relatively more constant and predictable. Such constant environments promote niche specialization, niche, N-I-C-H-E, niche, small ecosystem, and lead to a greater species diversity. And the third one, high productivity. There is more solar energy available in the tropics that contributes to higher productivity, higher rate of photosynthesis. This in turn might contribute indirectly to greater diversity. So these are the three reasons why maximum biological diversity is seen in tropical regions. So temperate regions have undergone frequent glaciations in the past. It killed most of the species. Tropical latitudes remain relatively undisturbed for millions of years. Tropical environments are less seasonal, that promote niche specialization and lead to a greater species. And of course, more solar energy is available. Now, the second pattern of biodiversity that we need to discuss is species area relationships. And thanks to this gentleman, Alexander van Humboldt, a German naturalist, is the prime reason for knowing this species area relationship. What is that he has observed? He has observed that within a region, species richness increased with increasing explored area. But up to what extent? Only up to a limit. So there is a limitation. That means vast area is available and it is explored area, and the species richness will go on increasing. But will that continue as long as the land is available or area is available? No, it has limitations. To a certain extent it will extend, afterwards it stops. The relation between species richness and area for a wide variety of taxa is to be a rectangular hyperbola. So when we represent this graphically, you get a rectangular hyperbola this way. So on a logarithmic scale, we say log scale now in mathematics, the relationship is a straight line. You can see here straight line, wherein you say log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. Please focus on, you got a graph, on x-axis you have got area, on y-axis you have got species richness. So when we plot x-axis, y-axis in this way, we get a straight line, and the straight line indicates the mathematical equation as log S is equal to log C plus Z log A, wherein S is the species richness, A is the area that's available, Z is regression coefficient. All of you have studied in mathematics and physics. Z is a regression coefficient, and C is y-intercept. C is y-intercept. So the mathematical equation is log S, S is species richness, is equal to log C, C is y-intercept, Z, Z is regression coefficient, and log A is area that is available. So on a logarithmic scale, it is a straight line, and log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. Here S is species richness, Z is slope of the line or regression coefficient, C is the y-intercept, while A is the area. And regression coefficient, Z, it is generally 0.1 to 0.2 regardless of taxonomic group or region. However, when species area relationship is considered for a vast area or large area like whole continent, like Asian continent, regression coefficient, that is Z, regression coefficient or slope of the line comes to have 0.6 to 1.2. Example, frugivorous birds and mammals of tropical forests of different continents, the slope is found to be 1.15. Now, within a region, the species richness increases with increasing area, but up to certain limit. You can see that S is equal to Ca to the power Z. certain, the relationship between species richness and area is a rectangular hyperbola. That's how we are seeing rectangle for a wide variety of taxa, where there are birds, bats, freshwater fishes, and flowering plants. And what are the importance of species diversity to ecosystem? Biodiversity is essentially for stability of an ecosystem. So first one is stability. What for biodiversity? Biodiversity is essentially for stability of an ecosystem. And second, biodiversity serves as a source of food and provides source material for new improved varieties. We call it productivity. So biodiversity is a source of food and food source. Various products of human use can be obtained from rich biodiversity. Example, gums, we can obtain gums, resins, dye, paper, fibers, so many we are getting. These are all the products. And various plant species provide different drugs and medicine. We have got medicinal plants like quinine from cinchona, taxol from taxus. These are all medicinal plants. And then biodiversity has scientific value also, as different animal species are used for biological and medical research. So third one, ecosystem health. So the importance of species diversity to the ecosystem is three: stability, productivity, and ecosystem health. And the productivity stability hypothesis, we need to, before we go for that, we need to discuss productivity stability hypothesis. This is proposed by David Tillman, found that areas with more species showed less year-to-year variation in total biomass. So what is that David Tillman said? Areas with more species showed less year-to-year variation in total biomass. He experimentally showed that increased diversity contributed to higher productivity. So increased biodiversity contributes to higher productivity. Next, diversity stability hypothesis. This is proposed by Johnson in 1996. The ecological communities will decrease in ability to recover from disturbance and in productivity if there is reduction in species richness. If there is a disturbance in the stability, then the species richness also will come down. Ecological communities also will come down, and recovery will take time. And here we need to discuss a very important concept which often asked in the exams, CBSE as well as NET exam, that is Rivet-Pepper hypothesis. Rivet-Pepper hypothesis. According to this hypothesis proposed by Stanford ecologist, Stanford University, Paul Ehrlich, 1981, the relationship between species richness and ecosystem functioning is non-linear. It's not a single line, but may follow a variety of possible trajectories. So you have got trajectories. The loss of few species or rivets holding together an aeroplane will initially create no problem. It's just like an aeroplane having so many rivets. So one or two rivets, just like fan wings going off, becoming non-functional, initially will not cause any problem to the aeroplane. But beyond certain point, suppose a particular number of rivets become plap or non-functional, then the aeroplane will start having problem. Similarly, if there is a minimum disturbance in an ecosystem, according to Rivet-Pepper hypothesis, the ecosystem will sustain. But beyond a particular point, the loss is heavy, then it will cause heavy loss to ecosystem as well as biosphere. We say catastrophic effect. So that catastrophic effect is called Rivet-Pepper hypothesis. Remember, when we talk of Rivet-Pepper hypothesis, you need to remember an aeroplane with wings. One or two wings not performing, it will not cause any major disturbance to the aeroplane. But beyond that, if the damage occurs to many rivets, then the aeroplane will collapse. Similarly, when there is a disturbance to certain point, ecosystem will sustain. But beyond that, if the disturbance is to the peak or maximum, the losses are maximum, then the ecosystem will have catastrophic effect. Hence, you need to remember that these 3 points, stability, productivity, ecosystem health, are all important. And then loss of biodiversity. Of course, just now we said the most serious aspect of the loss of biodiversity is extinction of species. Species will not be seen, extinction, they become extinct. Extinction is of 3 types: natural extinction, mass extinction, and anthropogenic extinction. So, in natural or background extinction is a slow process of replacement of existing species with a better adapted species due to alternate evolution. Changes in environmental conditions, predators, and diseases. Earth has experienced 5 mass extinctions due to environmental catastrophes. Golden age of reptiles, remember? And those reptiles which were dominating the earth perished with one single disturbance in the environment. Okay? And anthropogenic extinctions are extinctions abetted by human activities like settlements, hunting, overexploitation, deforestation, destruction of the habitat. All this will cause what we call anthropogenic